ESPN presents the HFC Hydroplane Series. This week, the 1990 Budweiser Cup on Mission Bay, San Diego, California. The HFC Hydroplane Series is brought to you by Household Finance Corporation, America's financial resource, and by Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Hendrick here at Mission Bay in San Diego, California, the 10th stop on the HFC Hydroplane Series. This, the Budweiser Thunderboat Regatta on a 2.5-mile saltwater oval. Now, the gentlemen that are flanking me on each side is the owner, Bernie Little of Miss Budweiser. Tommy Tomlinson represents the owner of Circus Circus. There's only 573 points difference between the Budweiser, who is leading, and the Circus Circus, who is following, with 3,200 points still to go. Now, Tommy Tomlinson's boat went 168 miles an hour. Bernie Little, your boat just a mile off that pace, 167. Both of these guys want to go 170 to be the first. Why?
Well, that's what we're here for, Jim. The Miss Budweiser broke the 160 barrier this year, and we want to break the 170. And we had the opportunity to do it, and we just didn't get it done. We're running a lot of saltwater protection in Miss Budweiser, and so that kind of cost us a few miles an hour, but it was worth it.
All right, now Tommy Tomlinson, your boat 168. You are trying to catch the Miss Budweiser with 573 points deficit. Why would you take a chance of maybe breaking your boat just for a record of 170?
Well, Jim, we're really not trying to take a chance, to blow it over or cause any kind of accident or anything. But in order to be competitive here, especially in San Diego, this is a very fast course. And what we were doing was just getting the boat race ready with skid fins and propellers and gearboxes and whatnot. And we just ended up being the world's fastest unlimited.
These guys will tell you, I don't believe it. 100,000 fans here today won't believe it. They just want to go fast. Now let's check the HFC high point list, and let's see how they stand. Dick Crippen?
Thank you, Jim. And as you said earlier, 573 points, all that separate the Miss Budweiser and the Miss Circus Circus. There you see the rest of the top five, Mr. Pringles, Winston Eagle, and Old Boy Alberto. The story has been qualifying speeds. Miss Circus Circus at 168.128, Miss Budweiser right behind. The conditions play an important part. Let's learn more from Mark Spencer in the pits.
Thanks a lot, Dick. On the surface, conditions here in San Diego look almost ideal, but there are two gremlins just waiting to strike. Number one, the salt water. A lot of things have been done in the last 2 years to improve the reliability of the turbine engines in salt water, but the bottom line is turbine engines and salt water just don't mix, and they never will. Number two, the wind. It can be real tricky here in San Diego. It blows through a Ventura on the back straightaway. Evidence 2 years ago. The Miss Circus Circus and the Miss Madison blew over in one of the most spectacular crashes in unlimited hydroplane history. And keep in mind, the boats today are running almost 15 miles an hour faster now than they were then. Jim?
All right, Mark, you're right. It's going to be a good, tight race on a fast course, and we'll have it all for you in just a moment. And now Performance Corner. For high-performance parts in over 700 stores nationwide, call 1-800-533-8989 for the Performance Corner nearest you.
Unlimited hydroplane racing. It's a game of solving problems, and here in San Diego, the turbines have a big problem to solve.
They sure do, Mark. The turbine engine is really affected by salt water, and it only takes a cupful, about this much, to stop $1 million race boat. When salt gets into one of these turbine motors, this is what can happen. The salt is turned to steam in the motor, is fried, and salt is caked on these turbine blades. They can't cool properly, and the blades melt down, just like this. The world champion Miss Budweiser crew has put an extended scoop over the canopy to help keep the water that sprayed off the sponsons from going in the inlet duct. Inside, they use a filter to cover the whole area over the engine to further get the salt out of the air. Some of our boats, like the Winston Eagle, the Jackpot Food Mart, and this, the Circus Circus, use a large scoop on top of the cowl to get air into the motor. It has a hole in the front and a smaller hole in the back, allowing the water to pass through and the air to get down inside. While getting on a plane, though, they keep a door in front closed to keep the spray off the sponsons from getting into the motor. After they're on a plane, the door is opened, allowing normal operation and high-pressure air in. And finally, The Old Boy Alberto and this the Mr. Pringles have tried to solve the salt problem by taking the air in through the back of the cowl rather than the front. It looks a little strange, but it seems to work.
And you know, Doug, they've been trying to solve this problem for over 10 years, and they're just now getting it licked.
That's right, Mark. You know, 2 years ago, both of our saltwater races, Miami and here in San Diego, were won by piston engine boats because the turbines weren't reliable enough. Yet last year, both of them, including the Gold Cup race right here in San Diego, were won by turbines. So they're starting to get it right.
He's won High Point championships. He's won many races. And, Jim, it has to be so frustrating that in qualifying the other day, you went the fastest you've ever gone, yet you're still behind the field.
Well, that's true. The Winston Eagle, we turned a 1:59 yesterday, and we were really happy with that. We've been working on the boat all season, as everybody knows, trying to get it faster and faster. And we finally broke the old record here, but lo and behold, it wasn't quite enough.
Well, Jim Kropfeld will be one of those leading the field into Heat 1A today aboard the Winston Eagle. Also in there in the Hulsett Miss Madison, Mike Hansen out of Madison, Indiana. Jerry Hopp will be aboard the Thor Racing Team boat. Mitch Evans in the Cooper's Express, and rounding out the field, returning to the circuit, Stephen David of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Jackpot Food Mart.
Well, we have 3 boats on the course right now. 2 will not start. Cooper's Express did not start. Jackpot Food Marts did not start. And here's the start of Heat 1A. And on the inside, closest to our screen, it looks like it is Jim Kropfeld.
Well, Kropfeld had a good qualifying speed, and he's going to try to take advantage of it as Mike Hansen is fighting him on the outside in the blue and white boat from Madison, Indiana, the Hulsett Miss Madison. But there you can see Winston Eagle on the turn has taken the lead and now has about 5 boat lengths on the second-place boat.
Now, ordinarily, we'd see the boats coming from left to right on the start, but because they're on an island and our cameras, we're going to see the starts today from right to left as we kitty corner, so it may seem unusual to our fans, but that's the view we've got here on the saltwater course, Mission Bay today.
And saltwater seems to be no problem at all for the turbine-powered Winston Eagle boat, but in case he develops any problem at all, certainly the piston-powered Hulsett Miss Madison is ready to move into contention. Only 3 boats in this first heat. 2 of them did not start.
As they come down the complete lap number 1, it's Jim Kropfeld, and get this speed, 144.842 miles per hour.
So Jim Kropfeld holding it right up in there, and he took a very fast first lap for that boat. It was a successful one because he has held off the challenge of the Hulsett Miss Madison, that boat now riding in second place. Mike Hansen, well aware of the fact that turbines do tend to have problems out here. He wants to keep the boat up there near the tail of the lead boat in case any problems develop at all. He'll be ready to take over that lead.
We're 1.5 laps into this 3-lap sprint. 3 laps for the preliminary heats, 5 laps for the final as we look at our first-place boat, the Winston Eagle. Our second-place boat to the left of your screen, about a half a straightaway back, is the Hulsett Miss Madison with Mike Hansen. There's a close-up view. Our third-place boat, the U7 Thor with Jerry Hopp.
No problem for the leader. Still riding a beautiful attitude on the water for that boat. This course can rough up a little bit, but so far the Winston Eagle and Jimmy Kropfeld, the driver, handling everything as it comes their way. Disappointment for Steve David. He had returned in the Jackpot Food Mart boat, returning to the circuit, and he gets the best seat in the house right on the course, watching the other boats go around. Third place now is the Thor Racing Team boat, Jerry Hopp. He's just going to be happy with third place for this race anyway. He'll see how things lay down a little bit later on and what the draw is like. Possibly he'll have a chance to improve on that position in a later heat. Winston Eagle, the leader, as they come down now, it looks like Winston Eagle's going to try to get onto the inside and go by the Thor Racing Team boat, which would put him down a lap. Jimmy Kropfeld still charging hard.
400 points for first place, 300 for second, 225 for third. He comes across the wake now to take the outside over Jerry Hopp. Red Loomis, a former driver in the 60s and 70s, passed away. You remember Red, don't you?
Yes, I do.
He drove boats like the Save Air Smith, Save Air Pro, the Wicks boat. Quite a guy. We're going to miss him. He passed away just a couple of weeks ago. He would have been at this hometown race, and of course the sport really remembers him and really misses Red Loomis.
Here's our winner of Heat 1A, the Winston Eagle, Jim Kropfeld. Coming across in second place is the Hulsett Miss Madison, Mike Hansen. Third place is the Thor Racing Team boat of Jerry Hopp. Those are the 3 finishers. 2 boats did not start. Mark Spencer in the pits.
Jim Kropfeld, a big win in the saltwater for the Winston Eagle.
Well, that's true. We fought the saltwater here a long time and had a couple problems yesterday, but here in the first heat, everything seemed to work out great. The cowling that the Eagle team made just worked out perfect.
Wimmer, you got to like your chances as the day develops against some of the other turbine teams.
Oh, yeah. In past years, we've had a lot of problems with the salt, but it looks like this new cowling we came up with is really working good, and it's nice to take this first place. Winston Eagle's real happy about this.
The 1990 Budweiser Cup on Mission Bay, San Diego, California, will continue in just a moment. Back at Mission Bay in San Diego, California, look at the Miss Rock with Jack Barry driving. And this is an interesting boat. It's the first time this boat has qualified this year. Jack Barry very happy about it. And I'm sure a lot of the fans who actually signed the boat are sharing that happiness today. In Heat 1B, Circus Circus, Chip Hanauer, the driver, against the Miss Budweiser with Tommy Deeth. Miss Rock, the boat we were just talking about, Fred Leland's boat, Jack Barry, the driver. Oh Boy Oberto, Mark Tate, the rookie driver who's doing such a fine job, and George Woods Jr. aboard the U-8 Mr. Pringles.
As they come down from the start, in lane number 1, it's the Circus Circus with Chip Hanauer. Lane 2 is Tommy Deeth and Miss Budweiser. On the outside, in the wide lane 3, is Mr. Pringles with George Woods Jr.
A battle from the start. This is the first time this season that these two boats, the Miss Budweiser and the inside boat, Circus Circus, have been matched against each other this early in the day. Right off the bat, Chip Hanauer powering on the Miss Circus Circus, trying to get the advantage on the inside. That boat runs a shorter course, but now the speed advantage is going to the Miss Budweiser, but just slightly, still holding third. George Woods Jr. in the Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles.
These two boats have come down to this, the 10th race of 1990, just about equal. It's now the driver has to make the difference or get the inside lane, which also can make the difference, which is what's happening right now, Dick.
And the problem that we have with this is that both boats are going to be going all out, and they've got to watch those water conditions very, very closely. Chip Hanauer is your leader right now. He wants this race. We said coming in, 573 points separate those boats. If he could knock off 400 points right now, hold Tommy Deeth to second, he would gain considerably on that. Better than 154 miles per hour in race condition.
As he comes down the back chute of lap number 2, with about a 9-boat length lead, he would pick up 400 points for first. 300 points goes to second, so the difference would be 100. He'd knock the lead down to 473 points from 573 points.
Lots of racing yet to go today, and as you look at a beautiful ride for the Circus Circus, it appears that the Miss Budweiser has now gone back to second place by about 2 boat lengths, holding it very steady. Tom Deeth just looking for a little crack where he might possibly get through and get on the inside and take advantage of a little extra speed if he's got it.
I'll tell you right now, Mr. Pringles has stopped on the back course, and I see a wisp of smoke coming from the cowling. He has a problem, does George Woods Jr., as we complete lap number 2 with 1 more lap to go here in Heat 1B.
Still holding on to the lead, the Pink Lady, as Chip Hanauer likes to call the boat. We showed you a speed of better than 154 miles an hour earlier. That means that he is right at about 205 miles an hour on the straightaways here in San Diego. This time, forced to go to the outside by the slower traffic on the inside. Miss Budweiser is going to follow him out there way to the outside of the course. Right now, it looks like Chip Hanauer has himself a heat win if he can just keep her going to the finish.
153.2 mile an hour for Circus Circus on lap number 2 as the KSW Miss Rock and the Old Boy Alberto are battling for third. The Mr. Pringles is dead on the back chute on the outside of the course.
We still don't know what the problem is with George Woods and the Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles, but we know there are no problems at all, apparently, with the Miss Circus Circus. Chip Hanauer doing a great job of driving, and the boat is responding beautifully to him. Back in second place still is the red and white boat of the Miss Budweiser. Circus Circus is the concentration point of these hundreds of thousands of fans out on the course now in Mission Bay. There's the checkered flag. Chip Hanauer comes across the line, 400 points, and in his mind, that's what he's concerned about right now.
Second place to Miss Budweiser. He'll pick up 300 points, so Chip has chipped away at the 573-point lead. Look at the problem. I knew there was a whisk of smoke coming out of there.
Fire on board the Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles. The rescue crews are going over there fast. George Woods Jr. signaling the crews in. I don't think they really have to be signaled at this point, though. He is trying to get the fire extinguishers onto the fire right now. All of it is coming out of the back stack and going toward the tail of the boat. That part of it is fortunate at this time.
The wind is blowing from right to left. That keeps the smoke away from the driver. He's really now worried about it. He's really telling the fireboats, come on, get over here. I need some help. Meanwhile, they have to go slow, Bill, because there are racers still on the course that they could upset.
No question about damage on this boat. It's going to be pretty severe to the back end of the Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles. As we watch those efforts, let's check out on the points for the race. As you know, Miss Circus Circus was the winner with Miss Budweiser second, then Miss Rocco Boy-Alberto and Mr. Pringles. Let's go to the pits.
First blood goes to Chip Hanauer in the Circus Circus.
Well, the first blood's nice, but the last blood's the one you really want.
How are the water conditions and the wind?
We've had more wind today than we've had either of the two qualifying days. I think it's going to mean we're going to have to change the boat a little bit.
That's 100 points closer now towards that points battle.
Yeah, today I'm not trying to think about the points. I'm just trying to take one heat at a time and not think of the significance of each heat. Just go out and do my best and see what happens.
Back with more from Mission Bay, San Diego, California, the 1990 Budweiser Cup in just a moment. The Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles is back to the docks. Driver George Woods is down there. Let's go down to Jim Hendrick.
I've heard of Sunday wiener roast, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a little exciting out there for a little while, Jim. And,
When did you know you had the fire on?
well, you know, I was telling the guys on the radio, the engine, I think, just lunched. It just went bang and it quit. And I told them it was pretty warm. I could see the temperatures on the engine were quite hot. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the onboard fire systems, and then we'll take another look at it. And I hit it, and I opened the canopy, and I could still smell it was kind of warm. So I thought, well, I better get out. And there's another fire system switch on the outside. So I thought, I'll get out of the cockpit here, and I'll hit that also just to make sure. This doesn't start getting everybody's attention because we're on fire. And so I stood there, and pretty soon they came over, and, boy, we had a hard time getting it out.
There are the charred remains of that engine anyway for the Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles. Problems there? No problems for Chip Hanauer.
Chip Hanauer, you're knocking on 170 mile an hour's doorstep. Did you ever think it was possible?
No. If possible, it certainly wouldn't be in the year 1990. I thought that was something we'd be facing in maybe 95, 96.
Now, this has been an exceptional season for you, kind of an up and down year.
It has been. I'm happy with the year, no matter how the national championship comes out. To date, we won 4 races, opportunity yet to win 6. The teams performed great. We've had a couple of problems. We had an engine failure in the Tri-Cities. We had a skid failure last week in Kansas City. Other than that, we'd be leading the championship. So I'm a happy guy.
Now, as you look through the record book, you see Chip Hanauer's name page after page after page. There's one record that you don't have. Bill Muncie, he won 62 races in 31 years. So far, you've won 34 in 14 years. Are you going to stick around long enough to catch Bill?
I can't imagine myself sticking around that long. Stranger things have happened. I often say when I win 1 Gold Cup and 1 national championship, I was going to get out. Well, I'm still here. But I just can't imagine sticking around long enough to do that. And I think it really shows how masterful Bill was when here I'm the second winningest driver in the sport, and I'm only about halfway to his record. I think it speaks highly of Bill.
Is the thrill still there after this many years of racing?
The thrill is there. The thrill is different, though. To me, I still love the racing, and I love the testing and being in the boat. But in the old days, everything was a thrill. It was a thrill getting on an airplane and traveling and meeting the crowd and doing the sponsorship stuff. But now, really, my love is the boat itself and working with the boat.
Well, we take a look at the boat as it reports in for Heat 2A. Circus Circus is in there. Winston Eagle has not started yet, and Pringles was listed to start, but that boat is still on the sidelines from the earlier fire. So here we go with the start of Heat 2A. We've got 3 boats that are going to line up and take it on Mission Bay as they come down. We should have some decent competition. Miss Circus Circus again going right to the front, and I know one guy, Jim, who's got to be watching this very closely, and that's Tommy Deeth.
Yes, Tommy Deeth is drawing Heat 2B. So if the Circus Circus goes on to win this 3-lap sprint, he'll pull within 173 points by picking up 400 points here. Make that 73 points. He's only 473 now. If he picks up 4, he'll only trail by 73. But Tommy can come back in Heat 2B, pick up the 400 back, and lead by 473. Very close race.
We better get the calculators out for this one, and we can calculate the speed, meanwhile, for the Miss Circus Circus, because he is holding a very good lead over the second-place boat, which at the moment is Stephen David in the Jackpot Food Mart boat. But Circus really will take advantage of everything he's got to keep those points in there, and I don't care whether he says he's thinking points or not. You know that's in the back of his mind.
Well, he's taking it real easy right now. 131.667 is his speed for lap number 1, where his last time out was close to 155 mile an hour.
Chip Hanauer using a little bit of strategy and using just enough of the boat to stay in the lead and keep the boat up on a good plane and test the water out a little bit more. Every time these drivers go out, they learn something about the course. Because remember, as opposed to asphalt racing with cars, this course changes constantly, whether it be the cloudy conditions move in or perhaps the wind picks up a little bit for one reason or another. You can see the boat lifting just a little bit there, and he's not going anywhere near the speed he was going in the first heat. Meanwhile, the Jackpot Food Mart boat continues to ride, and that's good news for Bob Fendler and Stephen David, who are co-owners of the boat. Stephen David, of course, driving it. Meanwhile, Chip Hanauer just doing enough to stay out in front. Third place boat right now is the Thor Racing Team boat with Jerry Hopp, the driver.
Jerry Hopp from the Seattle area. You know, Dick is an experienced driver. One of these days he's going to get a little better equipment. He and Al Thorson are going to get together, get a better haul, and look out for those guys.
Well, proof of the pudding right here. Steve David and Bob Fendler working hard to get the Jackpot Food Mart boat going, and they are back onto the circuit this year with much better equipment than they had before. As we take a look at Thor Racing Team coming down now, we're just about to wind up this heat. Jerry Hopp doing a consistent job gathering in his points.
225 to be exact, Dick, for a third-place finish. As our leader comes on the last lap now, and he'll pick up 400 points. He'll only be 73 points behind the Budweiser in the National HFC High Point standings, but that'll throw the gauntlet down for Tommy Deeth in this next heat to pick up 400 and take back his 473-point lead.
So the points battle continues, but right now the guy who's really making the charge is coming head on at you, and that was the Miss Circus, another boat that'll pick up a good amount of points this time around. Stephen David out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Jackpot Food Mart boat. Bright yellow and screaming today. He's glad to have second place. He'll get that in just a few moments as we're winding up on the final lap. Don't forget that Miss Budweiser will be coming out in the next heat, and they'll hope everything goes right with that boat to keep that points race alive. Here comes the checkered flag out, and it's waving high over the Mission Bay waters as Chip Hanauer comes around the third-place boat, Thor Racing Team. He'll lap that boat just as he goes across the finish line. Chip Hanauer in the Miss Circus. Circus finishing with 400 points to its credit. Two boats did not start.
We'll be back with more action from San Diego, California on the HFC Hydroplane Series in just a moment.
Two races left in the 1990 season, and Tom Deeth, you're moving in on a points championship.
Well, I hope we are. We're ahead by a slim 573 points, but you know, the Circus has been really running us deck to deck all season long, and it's going to be a battle, I think, right to the final heat in Las Vegas.
This will be the first season ever where you've started and finished every race.
That's correct. It's a first for me, and that's another, you know, first. I hope that I can finish the season out as well as we've been running all year long, and I think if we can do that and be consistent, I think we can wrap up the championship.
I've been impressed with the morale of the team all season long. It seems like every time you've had adversity, you've bounced right back.
Well, our guys, you know, we're one big family, and it's kind of my job. I think it falls on the driver's shoulders to set the tone for the morale. I've slipped a little bit at one of the races, but I kind of talked to myself on the way home and changed my attitude, and I got these guys pulling the wagon in the right direction again. And we work as a team. We live together, we die together, but we have fun together, and we're going to win this championship together.
We look on the course now as Tommy Deeth pilots the Miss Budweiser, Hulsett Miss Madison, Old Boy Alberto, and the KISW Miss Rock will be the boats competing on the inside of your screen to the right. It is now in the dead center, Miss Budweiser, Tom Deeth. He is well aware that the Miss Circus picked up those 400 points for the finish in the last heats. He wants to get in and pick up his 400 points to keep that margin alive. Gets a little bit loose out there. Tommy pushing a little bit hard until he feels out the rest of the field to find out if he's got competition coming up behind him. gets a little bit loose coming around, and as we say, they are not going the speeds. They'll go against each other. But right now, both the Miss Circus and the Miss Budweiser have shown some lightness on this course. The leader at this point in Heat 2B, Tom Deeth in the Miss Budweiser. There you can see the rest of the field. Tom's got about 6 boat lengths over the second-place boat, so he's very comfortable in his lead position.
Averaging about 143.8 mile an hour, and a very important 400 points is what the Miss Budweiser is looking for in this heat.
We had a couple of boats that have some problems out there. On the left of your screen, it is the Oh Boy Alberto. On the right, it is the KISW Miss Rock. Oh Boy Alberto really slowing down now, trying to keep power to it. There you see officially the lap time at 143.8 for the Miss Budweiser. Trouble for Mark Tate, the rookie driver in Oh Boy Alberto. The boat is still just barely up on plane. KISW Rock has gotten power back into it again. Jack Barry is still trying to hold on to third place. Running in second place is the Holset Miss Madison. Again, the Miss Budweiser just tiptoeing across the water. This is really the way Tom Deeth would like that boat to behave.
Only 9 squirts of each sponson. If they're riding right, touch the water, and only half the prop that gives that big spray of water in the back we call the rooster tail.
There you can see a good rooster tail being developed by the Holset Miss Madison. Mike Hansen out of Madison, Indiana, the boat owned by most of the citizens of that fine city. And as heavy as the boat looks, look at it get light. As he comes down that stretch, he gets a little bit light as he hits the wake of the Miss Budweiser, the boat that is leading. The KISW Miss Rock. This is the first race it is qualified for this year. Jack Barry very happy about that. Still not developing the speed he wants. The Miss Budweiser is the boat in control with the best of the speeds.
So those of you watching Unlimited Hydroplane Racing for the first time, don't think these boats are small. That's about 31 foot in length, about 14 foot wide, weighing 5,000 to 7,000 pounds, race ready, and travels the length of a football field in 1.1 second.
And of course, the Miss Budweiser is powered by a turbine engine, and the Holset Miss Madison riding in second place is the more conventional old-time aircraft engine, the piston. And right now you can see the difference in the flight of these hydroplanes, and we say flight because they are combining both water and air, thus the term hydroplane. Checkered flag out. Miss Budweiser collects the 400 points she needed. Tom Deeth has got to be happy about that. He keeps the points race going, as second place coming across the line will be the Holset Miss Madison. And that, of course, Mike Hansen. There is Mark Tate, very disappointed in the performance of the Oh Boy Alberto. They will have another opportunity to come back out as you look at the finish of Heat 2B.
Bernie Little, nothing comes easy in unlimited hydroplane racing these days.
No, it doesn't, Mark. You're out there, we're running 160 mile an hour laps or something. A lot of things happen, as you can see on the rear end of the Miss Budweiser here. We took a little beating in the last heat there, and but it's good, clean boat racing, and it's going to really be a whiz-banger today.
And we'll be back to more action on Mission Bay, San Diego, California, as the HFC Hydroplane Series continues. Dick Crippen along with Jim Hendrick and Mark Spencer welcoming you back to San Diego, California, where we're ready for more racing.
Right now, it's Jim Kropfeld and the Winston Eagle in Heat 3A. Competition will be coming from George Wood Jr. Mr. Pringles has been fixed. Danny High and that team worked. They missed the heat, but they're back in action now. Mike Hansen in the Holset Miss Madison, Steve David in the U19 Jackpot Food Mart, and the Miss Rock with Jack Berry rounds out the competition for Heat 3A as they come down. It's Winston Eagle, Lane 1. It is the Mr. Pringles, Lane 2. And Lane 3, it's the Holset Miss Madison.
Danny High and the crew deserve all the applause they can get for getting that Jif Presents Mr. Pringles back in here. You saw the way the engine was cooked earlier. You know there's got to be some deck damage to the boat and the tail. But I'll tell you what, the boat is out there and competing. Looking over his shoulder now at the Jif Presents Mr. Pringles and wondering where he is in that rooster tail. Jim Kropfeld in the Winston Eagle. And he's got himself a tiger by the tail. He's going to have to keep watching George Woods Jr. because George seems to want to make up for the heat that they missed.
Yes, George Woods Jr. looking for smooth water. As he comes out the middle of the course, he must pick up 400 points. He must beat this, the lead boat, Winston Eagle, to pick up 400 points to make up for the heat he missed, or he will not make the final.
So Jim Kropfeld is probably aware of that, and right now is really powering on. You saw the boat get a little bit light out there. They continue to get light as they race on the course. There you can see the damaged but still running very fast Mr. Pringles, George Woods Jr. You've got to wonder about a driver getting back into a boat after a problem like that. 150.149 miles per hour for Jim Kropfeld. I think you can say honestly he wants it.
Oh, yes, he's looking for his second heat win today. He picked up 400 points in the first time out by winning the heat. He did not start the last time out. He also has to qualify for the final by showing good in this, the final elimination heat today.
Jeff presents Mr. Pringles. Almost got him as they came out of the corner. He's closed it down, though, and it looks like Jeff presents Mr. Pringles is actually going a faster lap than the lead boat in his attempt to catch him.
According to the calculations set down by the URC, the second place boat on this lap is going 4 miles an hour faster than the lead boat, so he is catching up.
But he's got that outside rim, and right now, Jim Kropfeld is taking advantage of every inch of that course by holding it tight on the buoys and just doing a fine job. The boat got a little bit loose, but he's got it under control. And look at this. Jeff presents Mr. Pringles has closed him down. It is now an even race as they go down the stretch.
Oh, my. Look out now. This turn is going to be very important as Jim Kropfeld hangs it on the hook, stays in tight. The Pringles goes on the wide outside to keep the RPMs up. It is still a side-by-side seesaw battle with less than a lap to go.
The inside boat with the advantage only because he's got less of a course to run, but the outside boat tries to make up for that advantage by keeping the power a little bit higher. And look at him close down the Winston Eagle. Jeff presents Mr. Pringles. George Woods Jr. now takes a very slight lead.
This is the very best lap and very best heat of the day for competition. And look at these two fine drivers really battle it out as the checker flag is waiting, coming off of corner number 4.
There was a force outside, but to the Winston Eagle, he had to be very careful of the Jackpot Food Mart's rooster tail coming off the back of that boat. He had to go a little bit further to the outside. George Woods Jr. moved over to let him out there, understanding some safe, good sportsmanship. Look at the battle as they come down toward the finish line. Jeff presents Mr. Pringles trying from the outside to the right of your screen. Now the center is the Winston Eagle, and he gets the flag by about half a boat length. Winston Eagle, Jim Kropfeld just holds on for the win.
A 1 second victory in time for the Winston Eagle over this, the second place boat. A valiant try by the Mr. Pringles crew.
There are your results on the finish. The only boat not starting, the Miss Rock. Let's go to the pits.
Jim Kropfeld, it's either feast or famine for the Winston Eagle today.
Well, it looks that way. We've had a couple good draws here and came up with a couple first places, but we had a bad second draw there, and then we didn't get started with a problem with the boat. So the Winston Eagle crew went up there and really thrashed for about an hour there between heats and got it back together just about the time the gun went off.
We'll be back with more action. Heat 3B of the HFC Hydroplane Series Budweiser Cup San Diego in just a moment. We're back here at San Diego, California, beautiful Mission Bay, where on corner number 4 of this course is the famous SeaWorld and, of course, the home of Shamu. Quite a sight to see these dolphins and, of course, Shamu perform. One of the spectators is Tommy Deeth, the Miss Budweiser driver, celebrity wherever he goes, and he's enjoying the day. And now he meets Shamu face to face. Now watch this. The trainer tells Tom to turn around, and Shamu follows suit. These drivers are ambassadors wherever they go. They make appearances on and off the course and sign autographs to perhaps future would-be hydroplane drivers. You never know.
Well, the early influence, obviously, for me to get involved in boat racing was through my father. My dad had a marina business in Detroit and was in powerboat racing in the amateur levels, the 135 cubic inch class. And my father then started to drive unlimited hydroplanes, although I never dreamed at that time that I'd ever get a chance to drive a boat like the Miss Budweiser. Growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in Detroit, we were close enough to the Detroit River when the Unlimiteds ran, we could hear them. So all of us neighborhood kids would jump on our bicycles and we'd ride down to Keens where the pits were at that time. And the driver that was the favorite driver in the neighborhood back then was Chuck Thompson. He drove the Miss Pepsi, which was kind of a cigar-shaped unlimited step hydroplane that was powered with Allison engines, and it was painted up very patriotically red, white, and blue like the Pepsi Cola label. And so that was the favorite of the kids in the neighborhood. But I have several other favorite drivers during that era that each, had their own impact on me as a child anyway. Bob Hayward was kind of a gentleman's racer. He wore a white shirt with an open collar ready for a tie almost, and dress pants and dress shoes. He drove the Miss Super Test and won the Harmsworth Trophy. Danny Foster, of course, was kind of the daredevil type of Evel Knievel driver. He would drive anything that would float and usually win with it. Of course, Guy Lombardo, the famous band leader, that's where I got my first autograph as a kid. At least that I can remember. Guy Lombardo wrote an autograph to me that said, Tom, your dad's a great guy, and signed Guy Lombardo. A lot of memories back when I was a child in the late 40s and early 50s of the real greats of powerboat racing.
The young man climbing on Tommy Dietz' lap, great-grandfather was Ole Bardal, the Bardal Racing Team, and his grandfather, Rex Manchester, lost his life in 1966 driving the Notre Dame.
This is young Rex Manchester.
And now we're set for Heat 3B, and the Miss Circus, Miss Budweiser have drawn each other. Old Boy Alberto and Thor Racing round out the field as they come down to the start. Circus not running too well, trailing, but Miss Budweiser with Tommy Dietz will hit the line on the money.
And that's exactly what he does. Tommy Dietz takes control of this race right off the top. It's going to be a catch-up for the Circus Chip Hanauer if he's going to get up and try to challenge for the lead. The disadvantage with only 3 laps in the preliminary heat is the fact that the boat leading going into turn number 1 has a very large advantage over the rest of the field. Anybody else is going to be playing catch-up, and in the case of Chip Hanauer, he has got himself some distance to make up. But then again, this course has been pretty good to him so far, so let's watch and see what he can do. Right now, Tom Dietz has about 10 boat lengths over the closest competition.
And I'll bet you the radios are humming in his ear, and that microphone is cracking in the pits, and the receiver in his ear is saying that this boat, the Circus, is not a challenge at this point. But he's still going to hit about 150.5 mile an hour as we look at Miss Circus, Chip Hanauer. He's got it together now. Look out, this guy will never give up.
So 151.747 for the lead boat. You have to look at that as Tom Dietz showing total respect to Chip Hanauer in the Circus by putting that kind of a lap when he knew that Chip Hanauer was going to be playing catch-up, and he's not going to let off that pedal yet. Chip Hanauer is going to come at least that type of a lap speed.
And if the position's maintained, the Miss Budweiser will pick up the 100 points they lost the last heat to Miss Circus and still come out with a 573-point lead.
Tom Dietz in command. Circus is closing down, but ever so slightly now with a tremendous speed. Remember, as we give you these speeds, they are average speeds. They're going much faster in the straightaways. There you see Thor Racing Team. Jerry Hoppy's going to make the final heat on points alone if he just finishes this race. There you can see the Miss Budweiser is going to put him a lap down. Jerry Hopp and the Thor Racing Team down a lap to the leader.
Old Boy Alberto will not finish this race. They've had another problem for Mark Tate's boat. Meanwhile, the Coopers Express has withdrawn for the day. They set at 143.511, the fastest lap ever by a piston boat at qualifying a couple of days ago, but they burned their last engine. They'll now regroup for the next race on Lake Mead in Las Vegas.
Circus, this is the boat now in second place as they're pushed around the course at high speed. The winner is going to be the Miss Budweiser. There's the flag. Tom Dietz, he's got that point spread back where he wants it again, picking up the 100-point difference that he lost earlier. Circus second, then Thor Racing. Old Boy Alberto did not finish.
We'll be back with more action, the final heat of the HFC Hydroplane Series Budweiser Cup in San Diego in just a moment.
It's an age-old question in every sport. Who's the greatest of all time? In baseball, is it Henry Aaron or Babe Ruth? In basketball, Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain? In the world of unlimited hydroplane racing, there is no doubt. The greatest driver of all time? San Diego's own, Mr. Bill Munsey. Bill Munsey started driving boats at age 13. He broke into unlimiteds in 1950 at the wheel of the Miss Great Lakes, and in his first start, he promptly sank. It was not an omen of things to come. Bill won 8 Gold Cups and held the straightaway record in 1960 at 192 miles an hour. He earned 7 national championships, the first in 1960, the last in 1979. In his 31-year career, Muncie started 191 races, winning 62. Bill Muncie was killed in 1981 at a remote lake outside Acapulco, Mexico. Fittingly, at the time of his tragic accident, Bill Muncie was out in front of the pack and on his way to a world championship.
Bill Muncie certainly being remembered here in San Diego today. And we've got a problem with the Miss Budweiser. Smoke is coming off. It looks like steam. No, that's white smoke. That is not a good sign as the other boats are on the course, getting ready to start this final heat. And there's the boat the Miss Budweiser was going to take aim at, but it doesn't look like she's going to be aiming at anybody today.
Oh, is that a break for the Miss Circus Circus and a bad break for Miss Budweiser? It'll be Miss Circus Circus, Winston Eagle, and Holset, Miss Madison, Thor Racing, Jackpot, and Mr. Pringles is now the provisional starter as they come down, and the start of the final without Tommy Deeth and Miss Budweiser in it.
Well, I'm sure that earlier in the day in one of the heats, Chip Hanauer watched Jim Kropfeld fight high, and Jim Kropfeld is right up in there, and the Winston Eagle on the inside. He almost lost it as he came up on the side of the rooster tail, but Jim's a veteran, wily veteran driver, if you will. He held the boat in. Chip Hanauer knows that on his inside to the left of him, the Dayglow Red Winston Eagle is fighting for its life.
In lane number 2, it's a Circus Circus. As he comes down the back chute, gets a little high in his right spots, and this is where we had that double flip a couple of years ago. The wind hits diagonally right there at that spot, but they survive it on the first lap and get through. And in first place is the Circus Circus. On the inside in second is the Winston Eagle. Whoa, look at that right spots and lift on that Circus Circus.
I'm wondering if Chip Hanauer expected this kind of a battle from the Winston Eagle. He knows Jim Kropfeld very well, and for many, many years, Jim Kropfeld will find every ounce of power in the Winston Eagle to make a race out of this, and he certainly is doing it today. 150.563 in somewhat windy conditions now. We've seen the wind affecting them, especially on the back stretch.
The wind has picked up for this final race, so hold your breath as we're on lap number 2, as coming off of corner number 4, down the back chute, make that corner number 2 down the back chute. It is on the left, the Circus Circus, on the right, the second place boat, the Winston Eagle.
It's just a matter of holding it in there for Chip Hanauer, and Jim Kropfeld is just trying to catch him with everything he's got. He's been able to hold that inside course. Now, there must be 10 boat lengths between the boat on the outside and the boat on the inside before the outside boat can cut in, because they don't want any effect from that rooster tail. Chip Hanauer is taking no chance at all. He's got the speed in the Miss Circus Circus, so he's going to hold on to lane number 2 and keep lane number 1 clear.
Well, I'll tell you, that's pretty good, smart driving by Chip Hanauer. He's one of the better drivers, of course, of all time, as is Jim Kropfeld as we look at our third place boat, the whole set, Miss Madison, Mike Hansen. But coming up fast was the provisional starter, the Mr. Pringles. He's dropped his speed now, our lead boat has, down to 146.2. They've radioed him. He knows his lead. He'll be smart now, stay in smooth water. But Mr. Pringles, who is the provisional starter, who had the battle of fire and miss a heat, is coming up fast in the field.
Now, the boat being lapped on the inside by the Circus Circus is Stephen David of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in the Jackpot Food Mart boat. Circus Circus still holding a very high pedal out there as he keeps that speedometer high at around the 150 mark on an average speed for the laps. That would put him just short of 200 miles an hour on the straightaway, and you can see why he's got to be concerned about the wind conditions here on Mission Bay.
A lap and a half to go as we look at our second place boat, the Winston Eagle, driven by Cincinnati's Jim Kropfeld, driving for Steve Woomer and that gang. Our leader is now on his last lap, and coming up fast is the Mr. Pringles.
Jim Kropfeld had to go into a lap situation, so for the first time today, he is out of lane number 1, and he has moved over to lane 2. That has meant that Circus Circus has gone even further outside just to keep clear of the field and make sure that no one is giving any problem to him. He's not picking up any wake action at all, so he has moved out to lane number 3. There you can see Mr. Pringles, George Woods Jr. He has really had a day of battling, and the crew has done a tremendous job to even get that boat into the final heat. Circus Circus now coming around on the outside of Jim Presents Mr. Pringles. It looks like he's going to lap that boat also. What a way to finish this race for Chip Hanauer in the Circus Circus. He has just literally taken command of the field.
The whole set, Miss Madison, is down and will not finish this race. This will move Mr. Pringles into third, and the Jackpot Food Mart up to fourth as we come down for the checker flag.
Circus, Chip Hanauer, a big win for him here on Mission Bay in San Diego, California. Second place in a good battle given by Jim Kropfeld of Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Winston Eagle boat. Third place, Jeff presents Mr. Pringles. What can we say? The boat had a fire earlier and still managed to come back for the final heat. Jackpot Food Mart and Thor Racing complete the field. We'll be back to talk with our winner in the 1990 Budweiser Cup from Mission Bay, San Diego in just a moment. A happy Chip Hanauer, welcomed back by his crew. 173 points now, the margin of the Miss Budweiser over Circus.
Chip Hanauer, a big win.
We got a real gift today. We needed a 400-point gift, and they gave it to us last week, and then we gave it right back to them. And they gave us a 400-point gift now, and now we can go to Las Vegas with a realistic chance of winning.
It's Christmas here, and it's the end of summer.
Well, it's not Christmas yet. It's a little before Christmas. Next week is going to tell it, but we're just happy to win in San Diego no matter what the national points were, and it's just great that we got this break. We got 2 breaks. This time we capitalized on it.
What went through your mind when you saw the Miss Budweiser dead in the water?
Well, as soon as I got in the boat, I saw him go to start it, and just a lot of furnace smoke coming out of the back of it, and that's not a good sign. But when I left the dock, I told myself, hey, forget about it. Don't get excited about that. Still got a race to run. He may come out here. You got to get ready for him. So we were ready for him, but he just never showed, so it just made life a lot easier.
Now, look into your crystal ball and tell us about the final race in your hometown waters.
I have no crystal ball. We're just going to go there with our best effort, and whichever way it goes, it goes. We're still behind. We're still 173 points behind, and I'd rather be in their position, 173 points up, but at least it's going to make it, come down to the wire, and I think that's great for the sport.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
And Chip Hanauer was the man who said points really weren't on his mind for this race. Well, they really were, and it's all going to come down to Las Vegas, Nevada. There's the HFC High Points.
Another exciting day of action in unlimited powerboat racing. This the 10th stop on the HFC Hydroplane Series. The salt water here at Mission Bay, Mark, did not bother these turbines one iota.
Big day for Chip Hanauer and the Circus. He got things started off right. Set the qualifying record at just a tick under 170 miles an hour. Then he went out and won 3 of the 4 heats in pretty impressive fashion. For Tommy Deeth and the Budweiser crew, tough break, Jim. Here's the culprit, a $500 igniter box. It very well might have cost Tommy Deeth $30,000 in prize money here in San Diego. It certainly cost him 400 points and maybe a national championship.
It comes right down to the last race of the year again for the 4th year in a row at Lake Mead in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Miss Budweiser came into camp here in San Diego leading by 573 points. But not starting in that final and losing 400 points, they're down to a mere 173 points for the next event, Las Vegas, Nevada on Lake Mead. We're all going to be there. We want you to join us, too. On behalf of Dick Crippen, Mark Spencer, I'm Jim Hendrick. So long.
The HFC Hydroplane Series has been brought to you by Household Finance Corporation, America's financial resource. And by Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. Promotional consideration has been provided by the San Diego Princess, a Princess Cruises resort, a 43-acre island paradise with boating, swimming, tennis, and great restaurants overlooking Mission Bay. For reservations, 1-800-344-2626. This has been a production of IPI Sports in association with ESPN.